started with a letter taped to my front door. Notice of violation, stamped in bold red across the top, courtesy of the Heritage Oaks Homeowners Association. According to the HOA, my 180-year-old house no longer met visual conformity standards. Visual conformity? The house had been here since before the HOA even existed. My great-great-grandfather built this farmhouse in 1842. It had survived war, drought, and generations of change. But now, apparently, it clashed with neighborhood aesthetics. I'm Henry Wallace. My family has lived in this town for nearly 2 centuries. But that didn't matter to the new HOA president, Craig Weller, who had grand plans for modernizing our historic neighborhood. And that meant wiping out what he saw as eyesores. Craig was a retired tech executive with a slick haircut, mirrored sunglasses, and a love for strict order. He'd only lived in Heritage Oaks for 3 years, but he acted like he founded the place. He didn't appreciate the weathered siding on my house, the creaky porch, or the stone chimney with its hand-chiseled markings. He wanted it gone. The HOA's letter gave me 30 days to update my home or face daily fines. But what they didn't realize was that my house wasn't just old, it was documented. And I wasn't just a homeowner. I was the family historian, and I knew how to fight back. I headed straight to the local archives. The Wallace house had been part of this town since before the Civil War. I had blueprints signed by the original architect, letters from soldiers who stayed here during the Underground Railroad era, and photos from the 1800s that had been published in the State Museum. I filed an emergency petition to classify my home as a protected heritage site under state historical preservation law. And while that was processing, I started documenting everything the HOA did, every fine, every notice, every threat. Craig was not pleased. He showed up at my property with a clipboard and a camera, pointing out defects and non-standard materials. He claimed my stone wall was dangerous, my fence too old, and my garden unmanaged. He slapped me with $5,000 in fines. That night, someone ripped the historical plaque off my front gate. I had it on camera. I filed a police report. Then I filed a formal complaint with the State Office of Historical and Cultural Preservation. That was when things really began to turn. Neighbors started asking questions. Some were scared of Craig, but many were just tired of the HOA overreach. A few elders came to my porch and said they remembered my house from school field trips. I invited them in for tea, showed them the original well pump, the 19th century wallpaper, and the hand-signed Declaration of Land Ownership from 1843. Word spread. Local news showed up. Historic home versus HOA? Who owns history? That was the headline. A local reporter did a piece on my battle. Then it went regional, then national. Preservationists flooded my inbox with support. I got calls from university history departments and Civil War reenactors. The pressure on the HOA was mounting. The State Historic Preservation Office launched a formal review. They sent inspectors to my home, who were impressed with the preservation of original elements and my family's meticulous records. They declared my home a site of significant historical and cultural importance to the state of Virginia. That meant no changes could be forced by any neighborhood association. Not only that, but they couldn't issue fines for anything considered part of the historical integrity of the home. Craig tried to save face. He claimed it was a misunderstanding and offered to waive the fines if I dropped the drama. I refused. Instead, I filed a lawsuit, HOA harassment, unlawful fines, defamation, and attempted demolition of protected property. And I wasn't alone anymore. My neighbors rallied. Some shared their own stories. Craig had fined a disabled veteran for improper mailbox height. He forced a single mom to remove her swing set. The next HOA meeting was packed. Hundreds of residents showed up, many wearing Save the Wallace House buttons. When Craig took the podium, he was booed. Speaker after speaker demanded his resignation. Someone shouted, "You can't erase history," for curb appeal. A vote was held. Craig Weller was removed as HOA president. Despite being ousted, Craig and his remaining board tried to fight my lawsuit in court. But the evidence was overwhelming. Video footage of harassment, records of false fines, and the state designation made it open and shut. The HOA was ordered to pay damages. Craig was personally fined for defacing a protected landmark. With help from historians and a state senator who caught wind of the story, my house was granted preliminary status as a National Historic Landmark. I was invited to speak at a preservation conference. A new HOA board was elected, this time with historians, teachers, and longtime residents. They rewrote the charter to protect historical properties and limit fines to actual safety violations. I rebuilt the old barn in traditional style, with community volunteers helping me raise the frame. It became a community center, free of charge. Kids toured the old house, school groups came for history lessons. My great-great-grandfather's portrait now hung in the entry. Craig moved out of Heritage Oaks. His reputation was ruined. His LinkedIn profile was flooded with news links about his failed crusade. My house still stands, older than the HOA, stronger than any fine. History matters, and when we protect it, we protect our communities from people who'd rather erase the past to paint over their insecurities. Craig tried to bury a legacy, but I made sure the whole country would remember it. Subscribe to DD Stories because some battles are worth fighting and history always leaves its mark.